Drop your weapons now! Both of you!
Derek Cole never signed any agreement with a homeowners association because there wasn't one. But that didn't stop two self-appointed neighborhood enforcers from marching up his driveway, clutching fake legal notices and a stack of counterfeit rules. The pair, one with a drooping mustache and the other with a beer belly that strained against his cheap polo, figured they could intimidate a black man into submission. What they didn't know was that Derek had something very real waiting for them, and once the real law got involved, their fake authority would collapse faster than they could blink. It was one of those midweek mornings that dragged its feet through the mud. Derek Cole sat on his porch, his coffee already gone cold. The taste had faded hours ago, and the only mail he'd received was a pile of overdue bills and useless flyers. He stretched his legs out, one boot crossed over the other, idly watching his German Shepherd Rex chase his own tail in dizzying circles. It was the only entertainment the morning had to offer, until two unwanted figures appeared at the end of his driveway. They strutted toward him with the misplaced confidence of men who'd crowned themselves rulers of a kingdom that didn't exist. Both were middle-aged, dressed like clearance rack warriors from a home improvement store. The taller one had that cartoonish mustache you'd expect to see twirling in an old, silent movie. The shorter one, stocky, thick-waisted Bluetooth earpiece glued to his head, looked like he'd confused authority with arrogance. The mustached man stepped forward first, flipping open a leather-bound notebook with theatrical flair, as if unveiling the 10 Commandments. His partner puffed his chest, trying to look official. Derek leaned back, fighting a smirk. This was theater. Two amateurs playing cops in a play no one had asked for. The mustache cleared his throat. "Sir, you're in violation of HOA regulations." His tone carried the weight of false authority, every syllable dripping with self-importance. Derek raised an eyebrow, took a slow sip of coffee, and said evenly, "That's funny. I didn't know we had an HOA." Tommy Brandt gave a slow shake of his head, sighing like he was dealing with a clueless child. "Actually, sir," he said, voice thick with smugness, "we're enacting new bylaws for the neighborhood. Notices were sent out." Derek's calm stare didn't waver. "Didn't get one," he said flatly. Gerald Finch's lips tightened with irritation. "Well, it's your responsibility to stay informed," he snapped, puffing himself up as if he were delivering gospel. Derek exhaled, the weight of bureaucratic nonsense settling on him like a wet blanket. He could already tell where this was going. "And what exactly am I supposed to be guilty of?" Tommy crossed his thick arms over his chest, belly pushing against his shirt. "Your fence," he said firmly. "It doesn't meet community guidelines." Derek turned his head slightly, eyes scanning the fence in question, a solid, neatly built wooden barrier that marked his property line. It was freshly painted, sturdy, nothing fancy, just good work. "Yeah?" he asked calmly. "What's wrong with it?" "It's too tall," Tommy declared with the certainty of a man announcing a universal truth. Derek rubbed his temples, the faint pulse of a headache beginning to form. "This is private property," he said slowly. "I built that fence under county regulations." Gerald smirked, a glint of triumph flashing in his eyes. "County regulations don't matter anymore. The HOA supersedes local ordinances." That was the moment it clicked. These men weren't officials of anything. There wasn't an HOA. They were self-appointed tyrants, neighborhood bullies who had decided to play lawman simply because they wanted power. Derek let the silence stretch, watching them as they stood there puffing their chests, believing they had the upper hand. Then, with the ease of a man who'd outgrown the patience for foolishness, he took another sip of coffee and smiled. "You're full of it," he said simply. A week passed, and just when Derek thought the stupidity had peaked, the so-called enforcers proved him wrong. Pulling into his driveway after a long day, Derek looked forward to a quiet evening, maybe a cold beer on the porch, Rex at his feet. But when he stepped onto the stoop, his eyes froze on a bright red notice taped to his front door. Eviction notice. 72 hours to comply or vacate. What would you do if someone tried to evict you from your own house using nothing but fake authority and forged papers? Before we go further, what city or country are you watching from right now? Drop it in the comments. We love seeing where our viewers are tuning in from. And if you believe no one should ever be bullied off their own property, Smash that like button and subscribe to Story Arc for stories that put fake power in its place. For a full 2 seconds, Derek just stood there staring at the paper, trying to process the sheer stupidity of what he was reading. Then he laughed. These idiots actually thought they could evict him from his own house. Still shaking his head, Derek ripped the notice off the door, crushed it in his fist, and turned toward the street. If they wanted to play games, fine. He was done entertaining the circus from afar. It was time for a little house call. His boots struck the pavement hard as he crossed the street. He marched straight to Gerald's house and didn't bother with courtesy. He pounded on the door loud enough to shake the frame. A tired-looking woman opened it. Her eyes flicked from his face to the crumpled paper in his hand, and her shoulders slumped like she already knew what was coming. "Your husband home?" Derek asked, voice low but steady. She sighed, rubbed a hand down her face, and called over her shoulder, "Gerald, it's for you." A few moments later, Gerald appeared. His expression was fixed, smug, and ready for confrontation. "I expected you," he said coolly. Derek didn't waste time. He shoved the wadded notice toward Gerald's chest. "This some kind of joke?" Gerald didn't even blink. "No joke," he said, that smirk never leaving his face. "Your fence is non-compliant. If you don't remove it, the HOA will take legal action." Derek took a slow breath, his patience wearing razor thin. "Yeah? Which HOA?" Gerald puffed out his chest. "The community organization we formed." Derek stared at him, waiting for the punchline that never came. "You mean," he said, dragging out each word, "the one you made up?" Before Gerald could answer, Tommy waddled into the hallway, grinning like a man too proud to be smart. "You should be grateful," he said. "We're maintaining property values." Derek took a step forward. Both men instinctively leaned back. Derek's voice dropped low, calm but heavy with warning. "Listen carefully," he said, locking eyes with them. "If either of you so much as touches my fence, I'll introduce you to the Second Amendment firsthand." For the first time, their smug confidence cracked. Gerald's throat bobbed, his voice suddenly thinner. Is that a threat?" Derek smiled, a slow, deliberate curve that wasn't friendly. "No," he said. "It's a promise." Derek Cole had always been a light sleeper. Years of late-night security shifts and unpredictable hours had trained his instincts to wake at the slightest sound. So when his German shepherd, Rex, let out a low, rumbling growl in the middle of the night, Derek's eyes opened instantly. He didn't move at first. He just listened. The house was quiet, too quiet, but Rex's stiff posture and fixed stare toward the window said it all. Something was outside. Derek reached for his phone on the nightstand. The screen lit up with an alert from his home security system. Motion detected, fence line. His pulse didn't spike, it just hardened into irritation. These fools really hadn't learned. He swung his legs out of bed, reached for the heavy Desert Eagle beside him, and started down the stairs. Each step was controlled, quiet. The cold metal in his grip wasn't fear, it was reassurance. He was in control, not them. At the bottom of the stairs, he glanced at the monitor. Two figures near the fence, grown men, not kids, moving with purpose. One held a crowbar, the other bolt cutters. He didn't need better lighting to know who it was. Gerald Finch and Tommy Brandt. Derek's jaw tightened. That was it. Enough was enough. He flipped on the porch light and stepped outside. The gun stayed high, raised and visible. That alone was enough. Both men froze instantly like raccoons caught mid-crime. Gerald's crowbar slipped from his sweaty hands, clattering against the concrete. Tommy's arm shot up like a bad magician trying to vanish. Derek exhaled slowly, voice even and cold. "The hell do you think you're doing?" Neither answered. Gerald's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Tommy finally stammered, "Hey, let's talk about this." Derek stepped closer, the porch light glinting off the Desert Eagle in his hand. His voice stayed calm, measured, but there was no mistaking the edge in it. "No need," he said flatly. "You're trespassing. You're destroying property, and unless you've got a key to my front door, you're about to add breaking and entering to that list." He let those last words hang in the air, heavy and deliberate. The word felony did the rest. Gerald swallowed hard, his usual bluster evaporating. "We just wanted to." Derek cut him off before he could finish. "Save it for the cops." Without lowering the gun, he reached for his phone, eyes never leaving the two men. Yes, I've got two trespassers on my property, he told the 911 operator, voice calm and steady. They're attempting to destroy my fence. I'm armed, but they're unarmed and compliant. You'll want to send deputies. Then he glanced at the two of them, pale, sweating, pathetic. And maybe check their names for other complaints while you're at it. By the time the real law arrived, the self-proclaimed enforcers were trembling wrecks. Gerald's polo shirt clung to him, soaked through with sweat. Tommy looked seconds away from passing out or throwing up. Sheriff Daniels climbed out of his cruiser, eyes narrowing in recognition. "You two again?" he said with a sigh, the wariness in his voice betraying familiarity. Derek raised an eyebrow. "Again?" Turns out these two geniuses weren't just harassing him, they'd been running the same fake HOA scam all over the neighborhood. Multiple complaints had already piled up: harassment, intimidation, even fraud. They'd tried to strong-arm residents into following regulations that didn't exist. They'd fined an elderly couple for unapproved paint colors. They'd demanded a single mom replace her curtains for not being the right shade. They'd even tried to bully a veteran over landscaping standards. And now they'd picked the wrong man. Sheriff Daniels turned toward them, jaw tight. "You really thought this was going to work?" Neither man spoke. The silence said everything. Derek didn't gloat, didn't even smile. He just stood there watching as the deputies cuffed them, watching the fake enforcers finally face real consequences. If you believe fake authority deserves real consequences, smash that like button and subscribe to Story Arc for stories that remind everyone what happens when justice shows up.